Good morning. It is February 22nd, 2019, and yay, it's Friday. It is 5:35 in the morning. Yes, we're getting started relatively on time despite an hour and a half of research into an interesting story, and it's not the one on our front screen. Our first story from Breitbart: Judge expands gag order on Roger Stone, no further public statements on the case. And there is Roger Stone not speaking. The article was written by Joshua Kaplan, 21st February, which was yesterday. A federal judge on Thursday issued a gag order on longtime political operative Roger Stone, ordering the Trump ally to refrain from making further public statements regarding his case. This is Judge Amy Berman. Quote, "I'm not giving you another chance," federal U.S. Judge Amy Berman Jackson said before a Washington, D.C. courtroom after Roger Stone apologized repeatedly for his now deleted Instagram post, which was critical of her. Quote, "I have serious doubts about whether you have learned any lesson at all," close quote. The defendant, well, not close quote, the defendant may not speak publicly about the case, period. The judge then ruled. He may not comment about the case indirectly. Now we're closing the quote. Stone unexpectedly took the stand Thursday, testifying, "I don't offer any rationalization or excuse or justification. This is just a stupid lack of judgment. I regret it," he said. On Monday, Stone apologized to Jackson, who is presiding over his criminal case, for the post featuring a photo of her next to a logo similar to the crosshairs of a gun. He said that the picture had been misinterpreted and that any suggestion he intended to threaten Jackson was categorically false. Through legal trickery, deep state hitman Robert Mueller has guaranteed that my upcoming show trial is before Judge Amy Berman Jackson, an Obama-appointed judge who dismissed the Benghazi charges against Hillary Clinton and incarcerated Paul Manafort prior to his conviction for any crime, the Post read. And here is the photo. Is there any question in anyone's mind who is a rational, reasonable thinker that Roger Stone could have staged this photo? No? All right, let's move on, because that's it. Roger Stone cannot speak about his case. So we'll just wait for testimony from Mueller. Next story, which was in the sidebar, and, I couldn't resist clicking on it. Because Cher, honestly, was one of the musical influencers, or let me rephrase that, was one of the public influencers via music during my childhood and teenage years. And the title reads, Cher, Nancy Pelosi is a true icon in a country run by old white guys. Well, I will leave you links in the show notes if you care to read this article. But I find that a fascinating comment from an old white broad about another old white broad. And I apologize to my best friend from high school, who is an old white broad in the most complimentary sense. And I may have mischaracterized old white broads by calling both Cher and Nancy Pelosi old white broads, because I can. They are my elders, so I can call them old white broads. let's move on. All right, to an actual meaty story. This is the only actual meaty story we're going to feature this morning because it is something the public is only marginally aware of. And this is from Capital Research Institute, and it is entitled Secrets of the Public Interest Pyramid, the Left's Silent Partner. The public interest network is what they're talking about. And this is a picture, I think, of Richard Berman. But I could be wrong. Let me check. No, that is not Richard Berman. Let's keep going. Summary. And this is by Haydon, Ludwig, and Michael Watson, published yesterday, February 21st, 2019, for Capital Research. Summary. Since the 1970s, left-wing activists beginning with failed presidential candidate Ralph Nader, have struggled to build a lasting base of support for Democrats at the polls. But one of them, former activist Doug Phelps, took it further, establishing a permanent empire of professional paid canvassers designed to secure money and votes for the radical left's agenda. CRC's Haydon, Ludwig, and Michael Watson expose for the first time this vast empire of canvassers known as the Public Interest Network and the mysterious puppet master atop the pyramid. Now you may understand why this story caught my eye, and we're going to just wallow in it. Dive in, find out what Ludwig and Watson found out about Phelps and the Public Interest Network. If you've ever been solicited on the street by clipboard-wielding activists asking you to donate or support a group like Southern Poverty Law Center, Greenpeace, or Human Rights Campaign, you've probably run into representatives of the Public Interest Network, or PIN. But you won't see a PIN logo on these street canvassers t-shirts. That's because they're contracted out to any number of left-wing organizations, giving the appearance that these groups are fueled by, quote, grassroots, close quote, supporters eager to collect donations for any cause they cherish. Do you now understand how you may have been hoodwinked into giving up, I don't know, $20 at some time in the ancient past when you were much younger to an organization like Greenpeace? Seems like they're, a great organization. They have great public front, but in fact, not so much. So you can stop beating yourself up about once donating to a left-wing organization because they're very crafty, and we're going to find out why. But let's see. The kind of professional activism known as astroturfing or grassroots activism is often a publicity tactic employed by the left. In reality, these grassroots are astroturf, a small group of paid political activists pretending to represent a large organic movement. And while PIN is hardly the first organization on the left to use professional astroturf activists to inflate the size of its base, it's one of the biggest and best at it. This is because PIN isn't a single organization. It's a vast collective of nonprofit and for-profit entities operating under the, quote, public interest, close quote, brand. Together, these groups form a cohesive front for for advancing the left's political agenda. Now you understand why they stick together like glue, because they have this vast network of people going out and recruiting for them. Some groups, like Environmental America, lobby for left-wing environmental policies. Others, like the New Voters Project, help rally voters to the polls in support of Democratic candidates. Still more, such as the U.S. Public Interest Research Group, USPIRG, recruit new activists from college campuses and funnel millions of dollars in student fees to national organizing efforts or lobbying efforts. As a few, likely the ironically named Grassroots Campaigns, Inc., provide a private army of underpaid and overworked canvassers for left-wing organizations to hire out for their own fundraising and activist efforts. I want to go back to that phrase, student fees. Now, I can't speak for all college students, but I can speak from my own experience later in life where I went back to college to make a radical career change, to get me out of an industry that I felt was about as cutthroat as they get if you're not on Wall Street, which is the king of cutthroat in my opinion, and you can understand why. Those student fees to join these, student organization-led clubs, which are in fact recruiting mechanisms for these professional lobbyists and activists. Student fees, so you're going to pay dues to support your student organization for your cause that you believe in, that might have some relative link to the career you're going into. For example, social work, not my career choice, but social work related student organizations abound on campus. So your fees are coming out of what? What monies are you using to pay these fees? Your grant money, certainly, your Pell Grant, your other grant monies, and also your student loan money. So 10 years down the line, you've paid out all these trivial, dues fees over time in your college career, and it may not amount to much. It may amount to maybe $50 or $100 over your college career as a member of this organization, one of these organizations. So $100 times how many students were in your organization? Maybe 50, maybe 25 on your campus, multiplied by how many chapters of, or not chapters, but how many branches of these student organizations are across the country, and you get some sizable kickback via public money, taxpayer money, going into organizations that taxpayers may not support at all. Let's keep going. And at the center of it all is Doug Phelps. That must be who's in the picture. The enigmatic president of the Public Interest Network. Not so much is known about Phelps's personal life. He's a former activist himself whose first job in the network was reportedly with PIRG, the I'm having trouble this morning. the Massachusetts state affiliate of the U.S. Public Interest Research Group. He's also an active Democrat donor who grew up in Colorado, where he helped found the shadowy Colorado Democracy Alliance. Notice this is all Democrat, democracy, Democrat, democracy, and if you were listening yesterday, we talked about, and I hammer home at the fact that the United States is a constitutional republic, not a democracy. Let's keep going. His lack of public profile aside, Doug Phelps is the man behind Public Interest Curtain. He is the president, top executive, or a board member of no less than 16 groups in the network, most of which represent the bulk of funding and power within the structure. And where Phelps himself is not an officer or board member of one of his trusted lieutenants, all veteran public interest network activists serve in his stead. Very clever positioning. It's a complex system with well over 100 component groups dating back to the 1970s, which is why very few have attempted to map it out in its entirety, and none have succeeded so far. But before we can chart the public interest empire, we need to answer questions. Where did it all come from? In the next installment of Secrets of the Public Interest Pyramid, learn how higher ed carve-outs helped start the PIRG pyramid. And I am bookmarking this particular article. Capital Research is part of my news feed, and I think I've used their material once or twice. But I will be bringing you what Capital Research turns up on the Public Interest Network. Let's return to the desk. To drive home that point, in stark violation of their obligations under the First Amendment, California State University San Marcos campus has decided to use mandatory student activity fees in a way that produces two outcomes. One, students are compelled to subsidize speech with which they disagree, and two, students are denied the right to use a portion of the fees to promote a contrary point of view. This policy, which clearly is a test policy, should outrage all American taxpayers, because student loans come from the federal pool of tax dollars, not the state's pool of tax dollars. If you like this kind of content, please like, comment, and share wherever you find our content. And you can always find our platforms on the silver bar underneath the big screen. That's all we have for you this morning. We hope that the end of your week is satisfying and that you are well and blessed. For me and the shepherd, we hope you have a great day.